Good day, everyone. I am your reporter, Elizer Tekasan Bagundang, and I will be discussing about the types of agriculture, a continuation of the topic of Ms. Charime Flores. First is the commercial agriculture. Commercial agriculture refers to a food that is being produced for sale. Farmers in those systems produces not for their own subsistence, but primarily for a market of the farm itself. They are part of integration exchange economies in which agriculture is but one element is a complex structure that includes mining, manufacturing, processing, and other services activities of the economy. Next is the production control. Production control is the organized activity of transforming resources into finished products in the form of goods and services. Modern agriculture is characterized by a specialization, by enterprise or farm, by area, and even by country, by off-farm sale rather than a subsistence production, and by interdependence of producers and buyers linked through markets. Farmers in a free market economy supposedly produce those crops that their estimates of market price and production cost indicate will yield the greatest return. Theoretically, farm products for which demand at a given price increases will command an increased market price. That, in return, should induce increased production to meet the demand. In some developing countries, that market equilibrium is broken and the farm economy distorted when government policy requires an economically low food prices for urban workers. It may also suffer material distortion under governmental programs protecting local producers by inhibiting farm product imports or subsidizing production by guaranteeing prices for selected commodities. When free market conditions prevail, however, the crop or the mix of crops and livestock that individual commercial farmers produce is a result of an appraisal of profit responsibilities. Farmers must be assessed and predict prices, evaluate the physical nature of farmland, and factor in possible weather conditions. The cost of productions like seed, fuel, fertilizer, and capital equipment, labor, and so on must be reckoned. A number of unpredictable conditions may trump farmers' aspirations for profit. Among them are the uncertainties of growing season conditions that follow the original planting decision, the total yield that are achieved, and therefore the unit cost of production and the supply and price situation that will exist months or years in the future while crops and ready for market. Beginning the 1950s is the United States. Specialist farmers and corporate purchasers developed starting in the 1950s in the United States. Specialist farmers and corporate purchasers developed strategies for minimizing those uncertainties. Processors sought uniformity of product quality and timing of delivery. Vegetable canneries of tomatoes, sweet corn, and the like required volume delivery of raw products of uniform size, color, and ingredients contents on dates that accorded with cannery and labor schedules. And farmers wanted the support of guaranteed market at assured price to minimize the uncertainties of their specialization and stabilize the return on their investment. The solution was contractual arrangement or vertical integration, where production, processing, and sales are all coordinated within one firm that unite contracted farmer and purchasers processor. Broiler chicken of specified age and weight, cattle feed to an exact weight, wet with minimum protein content, pooping corn. The solution was contractual arrangements of vertical integration where production, processing, and sales are all coordinated within one firm that unite contracted farmer and purchasers processor. Broiler chickens of a specified age and weight, cattle feed to an exact weight, wet with minimum protein content, popping corn with prescribed characteristics, potatoes of the kind and quality demanded by particular fast food and similar products specification become part of production contracts between farmer and buyer processor. In the United States, the percentage of a total farm output produced under contractual arrangements or by vertical integration has risen dramatically. For example, the vast majority of hogs are sold under some form of contract today, while in 1980s only 5% were sold that way. The term agribusiness is applied to growing merging of the older, farm-centered crop economy and newer patterns of more integrated production and marketing systems. Contract farming is spreading as well to developing countries. Though it is often criticized as another adverse expression of globalization, subjecting small farmers of exploitation by powerful Western agribusiness, the AFO or FAO, however, argues that well-managed contract arrangements are effective in linking the small farmers of emerging economies with both foreign and local sources of advanced advice, seeds, fertilizers, machinery, and profitable markets at stable prices. The agency cites successful examples of contract farming in northern India, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines are seized in the management's and most promising approach to market-oriented production in areas still dominated by subsistence agriculture. Even for families of farmers not bound by contractual arrangements to suppliers and purchasers, the older assumption that supply, demand, and the market price mechanism are effective controls on agricultural production is not wholly valid. In reality, those theoretical controls are joined by a number of non-market governmental influences that may be as decisive as market forces in shaping farmers' options and spatial production patterns. If there is a glut of wheat on the market, for example, the price per ton will come down and the area sown to it should diminish, it will also diminish regardless of supply in governments, responding to economic or political considerations impose acreage control. Distortions of market control may also be introduced to favor certain crops or commodities through subsidies, price supports, market protections, and the like. The political power of farmers in the UE, for example, secured for them generous subsidies. European farmers' supports are seen as necessary to protect farmers from price volatility. Thanks as a model of agricultural location. According to Johan Heinrich von Thunen, the relationship between the cost of land and the cost of transport the crop to market differ. Early in the 19th century, before such governmental influences were the norm, Johan Heinrich von Thunen observed that uniformly fertile areas of farmland were used differently around each major urban market center. He noted there developed a set of concrete land use rings of different farm products. The ring closest to the market features intensive agricultural producing heavy, bulky, or perishable commodities that were both expensive to ship and in high demand. The high prices that they could command in the urban market made their production the high prices that they could command in the urban market made their production an appropriate use of high-value land near the city. Surrounding rings of farmland farther away from the city were used for less perishable commodities with lower transport costs, reduced demand, and lower market prices. Less intensive farming such as grain farming replaced the market gardening of their inner ring. At the outer margins of profitable agriculture, farthest from the single center of market, livestock ranching and similar intensive land uses were found. After all, transport costs were low for livestock in Von Thunin's day because cattle could walk to market. Next is the intensive commercial agriculture. It is a type of agriculture both of crop, plants, and animals with a higher input and output level per unit of agricultural land area. World War II, agriculture in the developed world's market economies turned increasingly to concentrated method of large-scale production. Machinery, chemicals, irrigations, and dependence on restricted range of carefully selected and bred plant varieties and animal breeds all were employed in a concerted effort of maximizing efficiency and productivity on each unit of farmland. The goal, of course, was to increase off-farm sales as American agriculture increasingly shifted from an objective of partial self-sufficiency to a total commitment to the commercial. Prior to 1950, most U.S. farm had significant subsistence orientation. They were general farms growing a variety of crops, some for sale and some for feed for farmstead livestock. A milk cow or two, chickens for the pot and for household eggs. The goal, of course, was to increase off-farm sales as American agriculture increasingly shifted from an objective of partial self-sufficiency to a total commitment to a commercial exchange economy. Prior to 1950, most U.S. farms had a significant subsistence orientation. They were general farms growing a variety of crops, some for sale and some for feed for farmstead livestock. A milk cow or two, chickens for the pot and for household eggs, and a few hogs and steers, partly for farm slaughter and use. Their extensive kitchen gardens supplied vegetables and fruits for farm familization, seasonal consumption, and home canning. In 1949, the average American farm sold only $4,100 worth of products. By 2012, however, most of farms had a full commitment to the market. Average off-farm sales rose to $187,000, and farm families, like other Americans, shop at supermarkets for their food needs. With the increases in capital investment and the need for larger farms to maximize return on that investment, many inefficient small farms have been abandoned. Consolidation has reduced the number and enlarged the size of farms still in production. To stay in business, many operations have had to expand their factors of 10 or 100, whether measures in crop acreage of number of livestock. From a high of 6.8 million in 1934, the number of U.S. farms dropped to 5.7 million in 1949 and to 2.1 million by 2012, with many of the smallest units counting as of farms only because of a generous Department of Agriculture definition.